Good morning. Today is May 1st. It is a lovely one, probably in the 60s, lower end of the 60s, blustery day. A little windy, otherwise fine. The bugs are out again. So spring is making its presence felt, and our mission today is we're going to try to penetrate the center of the eastern side of the local vigilance area today and do some exploring in there, look for sign. And we'll kind of take that. It's the first time doing it, so you can't really predict what's going to happen, good or bad. So we're going to just try our luck in there and see what happens. But we're going to get moving, and that's the plan for today. We're back, and so are the damn bugs. We briefly got turned around. I think I know where I am now. The embarrassing thing is this is like a logging road, but I took the wrong fork somehow. With a seasonal change, things look different. I got on the wrong fork briefly. I think I've corrected that. We'll know soon enough. There's familiar landmarks along the way. This does look more familiar. I was basically walking off in a scrub brush, and not that I've never done that before, but that wasn't really the plan. So we're en route, and this week I am maybe saw movement up ahead, but yeah, we're in a logged area from like 4 or 5 years ago, I think. So we're going to the edge of this. We're going to explore in deeper if circumstances warrant. As you can see, it's kind of like a mixed terrain. Logged and unlogged. Pockets aren't, some are. It's one of the more annoying trails you walk along because they left a mess on the ground. So you got to kind of watch where you're walking. But as far as monologue material, the big one was last week with MK trying to keep the freaking massacre nonsense alive and pass it along to a new generation of newbies. And I think I spent enough time. I haven't put that video up yet. I've had a hectic week work-wise, so I didn't get the chance yet. That's probably going up today. But my unflushable turd analogy was already given, so I'm not going to rehash that again. Other things going on. I guess up and coming plans. If there's no extension in Vermont, the 15th is 2 weeks out, so that's when I'm going to be returning and going up there and trying to get back on the trail of a trio of our quarry. It's been quiet down here, so there's not really a lot to say in that regard. It's been quiet as quiet. And so I've been doing my due diligence down here, but you can't pull a squatch out of a hat if it isn't around. Now I know I'm on the right part of the trail because there's the ancient tree stand that has most definitely seen better days. And since turkey season started 2 days ago, Obviously they're not up there waiting for Mr. and Mrs. Gobble to wander by, take a shot at them. I always thought deer stands were more of exactly that, a deer hunter kind of thing. But the breeze is actually nice today. I was able to briefly get the drone in the air in spite of the wind, but I've decided the Mini is okay in high wind as long as it's below the tree line. The Spark is a little bit more of a tank and can go into higher altitude in the wind to a point, but I think I've said multiple times now, it's been assaulted by 35-mile-an-hour winds and been rocked by a gust, but righted itself and not crashed. The point to be made, if it ever does crash in those circumstances, that's probably its last flight, because it's only a half a pound. It's not a ginormous thing. It's not built for that. So we are nearing our potential destination. But so yeah, I'll be back in Vermont likely in 2 weeks, unless they decide to extend their closure or say stay-at-home order longer. All indications are now they're starting to have limited reopenings, and the 15th is the day they're going to reopen, I think, or they end their closure, at least to some degree. But I've been itching to get up there because it's been quiet here. We'll need to keep an eye on that. Hopefully up there we'll get more action and things will get more lively. Because if they do open it up, I'll the long story there is that the amenities where I live, the pool and such, are probably not going to open because of COVID. They normally would have had it uncovered and set to go by now, and they don't seem to be trying that very hard. So, quick scenic pan. We're kind of getting to where the logging ends again and the woods resume. The wind is picking up again too, so. The other thing I did today, I got playing with some of the quick shot features of the Mini, the drone, where you can do some things for the intro. I'll take a look at how they came out and see if I want to use them in the intro. Now I just have to get down there, but I gotta walk through all this to do it. You can see all this mess they left here. But they work. It's just a matter of use of scenery, and when you're doing that, you kind of have to eyeball the surroundings. I actually, at one point, I had it flying in a circle around me, and it came close to a couple of trees, so I was kind of keeping an eye on that, so make sure it didn't clip a tree. Kind of a catch-22 of not knowing how far out of a radius it's going to go on one hand, but on the other hand, how high is too high for getting it up into the wind where it's going to get buffeted around and ruin the effect anyway, versus clipping a tree if it's too low. Keep wanting to say we're almost to the end of all the charming logged part and we can just get into the normal undergrowth, but get back into I don't know how far I'm going to go into this because this is basically heading towards the center of the eastern side of the forest. We're kind of on the back side of an eastern ridge. It kind of goes up over there, goes down over here. We're kind of along the side of that. I still see logging. This is annoying. But, so not a lot of rumor fodder, but that's just as well because I don't really want the focus to be on that. Let me just keep going on into this like a bunch of freaking whatever, sorry. I'm just sick and tired of walking over their leavings while gnats try to fly into my eyeball and drink my eye goo. There's a stone wall. I can follow that if I can get up there through all this crap. So the plans for the first time back in Vermont, I guess we'll just focus on that, are to get to the General Five Bogs area, do a big loop around there, and hold on, tricky footing. And this is tricky because you've got rocks and little cracks between the rocks and leaf covering all of it, so it's kind of hard to And as we go through a loop, there's the pond where we found potential the tracks last year. We'll check on that for new signs of activity. It's basically far enough in there that there's no real reason not to think that they would need to necessarily vacate the area in the winter, other than if it gets too cold or something. Hold on a second, I gotta take a break for a minute. Sorry, I had to fix something. So, looking at where we want to go, we're going to go up along this fence for a moment. I think this yellow stripe on the tree indicates that that's private land or the end of state land or something. Normally there's some kind of signage that I'm not seeing. The nature of the terrain though sucks for tracking of any kind though, so. And that's looking a little, I guess we'll go up this way before going back up the hill. Yeah, the way the season ended last year, we were starting to make progress, then the snow began. And it's hard to get in there once they do, and after the snow began, then we got into January and February, and then we started worrying about COVID, and then they started doing stay-at-home orders, and the rest is history. So there's not really any trail or anything in here, so not knowing the woods as well in here, I don't really want to wander off too far and get turned around, because not that it's going to be so lost that I'd be helicoptered out of here or anything, but it's enough that I don't really feel like spending the day circling around in here when it's getting a little warm. Not to mention, I don't know if I'm trespassing right now. That's actually kind of bugging. I think if I'm going to opt for the better side of caution and respect somebody's property line, if I am in fact trespassing, I'm going to respect their boundary and kind of work my way back. And this is their backyard, so be jealous. But although in truth, I'm not actually seeing any posted signs. So it might just be no man's land. All right, I'm not going to turn around just yet. It says state land. It doesn't say stay the F out, though. We'll go up the hill a ways and then work our way back. If only to cover some new ground. If I am trespassing, I apologize. No harm is meant. If you have all this deadfall up in here, I'm not going to go too far in anyway. But and the one thing that I'm going to yell at myself for in front of the audience is this is one of those times when you should have brought a compass. Because you're in the middle of nowhere. And I kind of know my way back to where the logging ingress is. I'm not going to call that a trail, it isn't. But just kind of having a look around. I'll go over to where that looks like a ridge. Can't be that far away from something though, because I can hear a vehicle in the distance. Which moose turd. Right there. Size comparison. But, and not too dry, so not too old, I guess, is the point to be made. Although with a big nose, any moose in the neighborhood would have smelled me coming. It's warm today, so I'm probably sweating pretty good. I'm going to go to that ridge line, I think. Probably only to find there's just like more woods beyond it. But There's a tree that's seen better days. You probably see all the lovely gnats buzzing around trying to be my friends. There's a cabin or something over there. I think at this point, it's not a cabin. What the fuck is that? Okay, never mind. No, it's just more woods. I think I'm gonna call it here where I can still kind of see my way back. And I don't know why I thought that red thing over there was a roof. I used to think there was an old cabin back in here, but apparently that's not this area. So we're gonna start our way back, and there's not really any discernible landmark that makes it. I mean, you're basically going to work a straight line back towards that weird mangled tree, this weird mangled tree, and basically we will intersect again with that stone wall, and by then we shall have, what are you doing? I don't kill myself trying to get through this stupid undergrowth. And I'm right, it's basically just down the hill there. That'll find us back to the logged area and the road back out. Anyway, now let's try to find a way less boulder fieldish. And I don't want to fall on this stuff. Damn it. I saw a stream over there, a pond. Back into the undergrowth. All right, I'm going to take a break about here, and I got to navigate back up into that, so we may or may not be back. Thanks.